It is the final Rainmaker show of the year here at Betsperts Golf, ahead of the final major of the year in less than 48 hours. As always, I'm your host, John Daigle, joined today by the Model Maniac and host of the Back Nine Bets podcast, none other than Byron Lindeque. Byron, how's it going this evening?
Good. Busy. I think this is podcast number 3 in the space of 4 hours. So the voice box is warm and we know exactly what we're talking about until 48 hours time, until everything that we've said makes no sense.
You have lots of content everyone can get to. We will definitely get that out towards the end of the show. But right now we are starting with DraftKings Reignmakers, and they did release another set of crafting recipes for everyone. And if you have tokens, I would like to highlight, as I'm the only person who also uses the Photos app on Mac still, I would like to highlight the inactive golfers that are set for this round of tournaments. And I know you have a particular strategy you want to stress for everyone for this particular group of inactive players.
Correct. If you have Will Zalatoris's, which is most unlikely, that's going to be only group 1 or 2 recipes, which I think provide you the upside to land a Scotty or a Rory, someone significant that can get you more value than you're paying for the recipe itself, which includes the token. These group 3 or 4 guys, you are not going to be returning individuals from that recipe that will be able to be sold for more than you buy the token for, if that makes any sense at all. And I would rather suggest using these inactive guys instead of using it in the group 3 or 4 inactive recipes. Just use it for the full marge page of people that you can get. I think you have to burn 1 extra player because I think this lets you burn 2 and the other ones require 3. Use that instead and really take a chance on that, because you can land up with a elite golfer that you're really trying to benefit from, because spending so much money on a token to get a guy that's half the price of that original token and you've lost your other 2 golfers just doesn't make any economic or feasible sense to me.
And that doesn't stop with the idea you will be using them this week at the Open Championship. What you're suggesting is trying to trade these players you actually don't and most likely won't end up using on the cheaper side, and perhaps landing a Will Zalatoris ahead of next year for later on in Rainmakers.
Correct. Yeah, you can land up with much more upside than what the group 3 or 4 is really going to kick out, because you're going to get guys like these names you're seeing on here that are not very good from that group of 3.
That is the second edition of crafting ahead of the Open Championship that DraftKings just launched. But I want to get into something that the people demanded return. And that is, of course, your model for Rainmakers and recent pricing. And as everyone can see, this is how pricing is fluctuate for these particular golfers. We will scroll through it throughout the show. We'll talk a little bit here, but I actually want to get to my first play before you steal him. And that's because I think Viktor Hovland is an expensive player whose price is dropping, yes, but it shouldn't be, because he genuinely has win equity for this tournament. If you just look at his recent form, although the price would suggest he's getting worse in recent form, over the last 24 rounds, he's actually 8th among this field in strokes gains off the tee, which of course is important given the thin fairways and how close the out of bounds markers are to the fairways. So we need accuracy, which Hovland has shown. Also in that time, 6th among this entire field in proximity to the hole on approach. So great at approach shots. And then, of course, 5th among this field in putting from 10 to 15 feet. He hasn't missed a cut in 2023 and now has, in terms of recent form, 6 consecutive top 30 finishes, including that most recent win at Memorial. So overall, I don't understand why his price is dropping, given that he could easily win this tournament.
And let's just add to that awesome resume that his last 4 majors have all been top 20s, with 3 of them being
incredible,
literally in contention. So you're getting a guy that's a half the price of Scotty, which you're not going to want to compare that to, but let's say just short of half the price of Rory, which I think you could argue on their best day, Victor's right there, So I think the value is just absurd. I love it, John. Love that.
And more importantly, for strategy for Rainmakers this week, since we're all going to try to figure out a way to fit Scotty in, maybe not even in captain, Hovland, I genuinely believe, is an incredible captain. Maybe not a 1-for-1 with Scotty replacing them, but I could definitely see a Hovland captain and Scotty in the flex taking Reignmakers lineups down.
Well, yeah. Do you want Scotty in your captain knowing that he's going to be inside the top 5, but most likely not going to win?
That's what we're arguing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I'm down.
In DFS, it's a entirely different argument. We'll have that tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern for everyone. But yes, for Reignmakers, exactly. We're looking for the winner, no matter who it is. It could be Wyndham Clark. It could be anyone else. So yeah. I think Hovland's an amazing captain choice.
Money. I've got nothing to disargue with you there on that point at all.
Let's get one of your first expensive plays as well.
I'm going to go with Wyndham. I'm kind of trying to anchor my plays around guys that have got extreme length off the tee, if not Victor Hovland's accuracy, because those pot bunkers are basically coffins this week. And the way to avoid that is either to hit between them, which on a link style course can be difficult because it can bounce in there at any given moment if the wind's from the side. The easiest way to avoid them is just to have incredible length and just nuke it over them. And I think looking at that Golf Digest flyover, a lot of the fairways open up over those pot bunkers that I'm thinking a handful of guys in this field can only carry. So Wyndham Clark is one of those guys that has like 190 ball speed that can just nuke it over those bunkers. And he's also the US Open champion. You never know. I mean, we haven't seen a guy win 2 times majors in a year, but he's going to be damn close this year, I think. So we'll give him a shot again.
Putting also hasn't been his issue. And even though he did still finish respectably T25 just last week at the Genesis Scottish Open, like that was his worst putting performance. You have to go all the way back to January 28th, where he lost more strokes in putting. So to me, I agree. It seems like a situation where his game is rounding into form, and it was a blip week at what had typically been his strongest aspect of his game.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess also we just said expensive, and I'm saying a $31 golfer, right? He's like half the price of Victor, who's half the price of Rory. So it's probably a bad answer, but yeah, he's so underpriced. I would say the disrespect is unreal.
I'll give you one more expensive one, or not really expensive because his price is coming down, that I'm targeting. And you are more than welcome to push back because we may be arguing about the win equity, even though I still think he's a fine flex option. And that's Tony Finau, because recently the putting Byron, as you know, has been an absolute disaster. Like over his last 6 tourneys, so the last month and a half, he's lost strokes gained putting over half a stroke with 2 missed cuts in that time. Yeah. But in DFS, I like to take the big picture. I like to look at beyond the last 50 rounds and say, okay, this player long-term is still playing well. It's just recently, which will depress his ownership. Recently, he's not doing well. And so I should target that guy as leverage. And I'm going to do that even for Reignmakers here, for a player I think should be more expensive, because he is, in terms of putting over the last 50 rounds, he's only lost strokes in 5 of his last 19 events from July 2022 to April. 5 of 19 events he lost strokes putting. Otherwise, he was still a tremendous putter. Also, 7th in this field in strokes gained on approach over the last 6 months. So long-term, Finau's playing well. It's just recently the putting has completely drowned him. And then looking at your model, we know that he was $95 on Reignmakers as recently as April. So it's a situation I want to be ahead of and just cross my fingers and bet on at this price.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because at this point, it's like, how much long-term equity are you looking to get in a golfer with so little tournaments left, you know? Yeah. But at any minute, he could flip a switch, and that's putting. Putting is probably the easiest thing to kind of just correct on a dime, and it's a ballsy play. You know, I think it's a risk that's going to pay off if it does, and at the same time, you're not even spending $30. It's $29.99. So can save that penny, put it in your pocket, and off you go. So I don't mind at all. You know, you're also getting a 9th place FedEx Cup rank right now, which is going to be key going all the way to the Tour Championships, right? You want your guys making it all the way to the end of the season and playing in that event.
I have the goal to captain him, but I do think he's going to be a good 2 or 3% flex play. And so that's why I don't mind spending up at this cheap price point for him. Do you have any more expensive plays or surging plays, dipping plays you want to discuss before moving on to the cheaper options?
Adam Scott is going to provide us with some extreme utility going forward. If he doesn't play well this week, hopefully he does, but if you have him in your player pool, then you've got a good player that's going to be playing well at the Open. If he doesn't, he's sitting in 83rd, and the top 70 make the playoffs. We've got the 3M and the Wyndham. That's all we got left. He's sitting 83rd. He needs to get inside the top 70 to continue his run as one of the most consistent golfers on the PGA Tour history. And hopefully he plays okay enough this week and still plays behind, but doesn't get enough FedEx Cup points that he still has to tee it up in the next few weeks. So then you can just get a good run out of someone that's in some really good form. Looking at this trajectory and strokes gained total, he's playing some solid golf lately.
Yeah, he's been one of the better golfers off the tee and on approach this year. So yeah. I completely agree with that.
For an old guy.
Yeah. That's what's crazy is that, honestly, this is one of his best tour seasons ever for his age. It's insane the turnaround he's had. Okay, I'll give you my ugly play. I'll get it out of the way, and then I'll let you run through some cheaper options for everyone to target both this week and long term. But much like in Dynasty football, how people are always trying to sell like the 30, 31-year-olds, and the ones who buy them, trade for them, are the players who are trying to win it all. And so if I'm trying to win it all, I have no idea about the longevity of his card. It may just be for this week. But I know even if you're playing something as mid to low stakes as rare tournaments, that Brendan Todd is $9 in the rare tier, Byron, as you have to look for him in your rankings because you can't find him. But top 10 in this field in good drive percentage. So that's a stat we have at Betchman's Golf in our model, how often players either find the fairway or gain a green in regulation even after a poor tee shot. And he's top 10 in this field over the last 24 rounds. And more importantly, we know how important it's going to be to scramble and save yourself from bunkers at this course with pot bunkers, as you mentioned earlier, all around. And he's actually 7th in this field in scramble percentage and 22nd and sand save percentage. So honestly, for someone who's going to be a 1% play that only I'm going to have in tournaments, I think he's a really good play for this week at $9 in those mid-stakes tiers.
Yes, I will let it slide in Reignmakers. I'm not sure I'm going to be rostering him in DFS.
Well, we'll talk about that tomorrow, but
yeah,
I may sell him to you then too.
No, I will come with a very bulletproof argument against that then.
Okay.
But what I'm almost certain about is he's not going to be hitting it into those fairway bunkers because he just can't get it there.
No,
simply,
he's not a distance player. This is just a honed in on approach player. As we look for different ways to play this course, because you don't necessarily need distance. Like Bryson will probably be fine because his approach game has been amazing so far, but you don't have to have that distance.
Correct. And if you don't have that distance, what you want is elite accuracy, and he is literally elite in that department. Yes. Great long iron player and tidy around the greens. I mean, that's everything you're looking for. Theoretically, it's made so much sense to me many, many weeks in a row. And then you just sit on a Sunday afternoon and you're wondering why you had him. But I like it. All
right. Give the people some legitimate plays that are cheaper.
Some cheap. It's Tom Hoagie time. I don't know. It's just I've got a weird feeling. If you think about someone that's got just immense upside, he can easily on any given week be the best iron player in the field. And we've seen it happen many, many times before. And we saw a little bit of a spark last week, and there's going to be that range that he really thrives from, that 175 to 200, 225 range. He's a really good long iron player. Going to see a lot of those shots this week. I like Tom Hoagie in a little bit of form, very affordable. And then Nick Taylor, my little dark horse guy. He's a real good scorer. He's 10th in the FedEx Cup ranking, so you're going to probably get him at East Lake all the way through. No matter how well or badly he plays in the next little while, you're going to have utility out of him there. And he's 844 too. So he's right around the Brendan Todd range, which I would be willing to kind of get into some sort of a friendly agreement with you on there. But I like Nick Taylor this week. I think he's upside. I mean, he's a winner this year already. Almost won the Waste Managed Phoenix Open. Like, he can ball out when the putter gets rolling. So I like him a lot.
One more question, since we've given everyone a couple plays to be ahead of, spend up for, spend down for. Who would you feel comfortable captaining if you're not captaining Scheffler? Because I think that's what everyone is trying to maneuver their lineups around and figure out. To me, I've already mentioned Victor Hovland. You have Rory McIlroy highlighted for everyone.
Yeah, I'm all in. He's got the biggest distance advantage. He's my only outright I'm playing this week. I'm just all in on Rory. I think he's playing free. He's playing fluid. You know, like that 2-iron that we saw him hit in there that's just next level confidence that you have to have. And he finally stepped up to the plate and hit the home run for the Grand Slam or whatever you want to call it to get his team into the next round. And now he's if you went into this year and said he didn't win a major after how he's played, like this is the week now that it has to happen, right? Like it's destiny. After last year, the heartbreak, it's go time. You know, I think he won here in 2014. So it's time to happen again.
So especially given that we see the $83 price right there, when just even a month ago, he was roughly $100, you think you would still buy high on him now?
Yeah.
Or buy low, I guess.
So the funny thing is I said that he's going to be a captain, but I've bought just multiple of him at the core level to put him in my rare lineups. I want more of him than just one, if that makes sense. I want a lot of him versus just a captain.
Tell everyone where they can find this model if diving into Reignmakers before lineups lock.
Yes, I will have this bad boy out. It's going to be snippets of it will be available in the free article I put out tomorrow morning. There will be, if you want to get the model, it can be in my Discord at rotoballer.com, where you can get all my other jazz. If you want to use code Maniac, you can just jump in right there. Other than that, just the article's free. You can use what I put in there to your benefit.
And of course, the back nine bag 101 himself to break down the other format on DraftKings, daily fantasy, which I'm very, very excited about. We are coming off a very good week, all of us together. So tomorrow, until then, 1 p.m. Eastern, you know what to do. Be a little bit kinder than what's required. Good luck this week.